everybody, and welcome to the Weekly Scopes from the 4th to the 10th of May. Hi everybody, and welcome to this week's Weekly Scopes. If you've heard this before, you can skip, but this is just the intro on how I, formulate these astrology weekly readings. I use astrology and my intuition to give you advice how you can practically use the knowledge of the stars and the planets and apply them to your life. So my weekly scopes are all based on GMT time and on Vedic Constellational Astrology. So now I'm just going to explain what Vedic Constellational Astrology is and how it differs from Western astrology. So the precession of the equinox is sort of like something that happens in astronomy and astrology, where the Earth's axis undergoes a slow circular motion over 26,000 years, and basically this means that this motion causes a shift in the position of the equinoxes and also the calculation Vedic and Western astrologies use. So around 2,000 years ago, the tropical and sidereal Vedic astrology signs of astrology were aligned in the same position. So if the Sun was in Scorpio in Vedic astrology, it was also in the constellation of Scorpio in Western astrology. But because of the precession of the equinoxes, this has caused a gradual westward sort of like drift of the tropical Western signs. So basically these signs and the Western signs shift 1 degree with every 72 years. So as a result of this ongoing shift, when Western astrology says the Sun is in the constellation of Pisces, it's typically in the constellation of Aquarius. Still, this is because the degree, orb and the date for Western and Vedic astrology are 24 degrees, 24 days apart. So in Western astrology, the Sun enters the constellation of Pisces around the 19th of February each year, but actually the Sun doesn't arrive into the constellation of Pisces until the 13th to the 15th of March each year, and Vedic astrology takes this into account because it's based on the fixed star positions, and Vedic astrologers use sidereal calculations. So as a result, Vedic astrology takes into account the actual positions of the constellations in the sky at any given time, and also considers the precession of the equinox, adjusting for the shift in the position of the equinoxes over time. But in terms of Western astrology follows the tropical zodiac, which is based on the seasons rather than fixed star positions. Western astrologers also do not directly account for the precession of the equinox in their calculations as well, so this results in slightly different calculations and interpretations that are given whether we're using Western astrology or Vedic astrology. So yeah, as I said, Western astrology uses specific dates, so every year, regardless of where the Sun actually is at the sky, the Sun moves into Pisces around the 19th of February. So yeah, this discrepancy, this misalignment between the tropical zodiac and the actual positions of the constellations has led to a discrepancy between Vedic astrology and Western astrology. So I consider the actual where the Sun and the Moon are and where Mars and Venus are at any given time, and this is how I formulate these sort of like weekly scopes. So yeah, thanks for listening to this, and let's dive into this week's weekly scope. Okay, so now I'm just going to explain what parallels and contra parallels are in astrology, because I use them in my chart interpretation. So decolation in astrology is the measure of how far a celestial body is, such as the Sun, whether it's either north or south of the celestial equator. And the celestial equator is an imaginary line in the sky above the Earth's equator, which which us astrologers use in our interpretation. So parallels happen when two planets are on the same declination, either both planets are on the north side or either both planets are on the south side, and this alignment increases the influence of the involved planets. So it's similar to a conjunction aspect, as it amplifies their energy, making the effects of the planets more pronounced. Contraparallels, on the other hand, happen when two planets are on the same declination, but one is in the north and one is in the south. So this alignment creates tension, which is similar to an opposition aspect, and it can lead to conflict, challenges and inner struggles between the energies of the planets involved. So contraparallels highlight areas of friction or contrast in our lives, urging us to find balance between the opposing forces at play. When transiting parallels and contraparallels happen, they can sort of trigger significant events, shifting consciousness and periods of intense growth and transformation. So I look at these aspects closely during chart analysis to understand how planetary energies interact and influence each other during a specific time frame, to pinpoint key periods for personal development, relationship dynamics or career shifts, and other shifts like karmic shifts and stuff like that. Because I just find using contraparallels and parallels gives me more depth in interpretation, so I use them. So contraparallels and parallels in astrology serve as markers for potential challenges or breakthroughs, guiding us towards more self-awareness, love, acceptance, understanding, forgiveness for ourselves and others, and shifts in consciousness and growth. So overall, just a shift in our mindset if we allow for it. So parallels and contraparallels just kind of provide valuable insights into the complexities and nuances of the astrological interactions between planetary movements. So yeah, that's the end of what contraparallels and parallels are. Okay, so this week we've got two aspects influencing us. So the first one is Venus's contraparallel to the Moon's North Node, and this entered on the 9th of April, was exact on the 18th of April, is exact again on the 5th of May, and leaves us on the 18th of May, so taking us right to the end of next week. Venus is in Pisces and the North Node's in Pisces. Then we've got Venus making a contraparallel to Saturn. Now, contraparallels work the same with oppositions, but what it means is that Venus and Saturn are on opposite side of the declination sides of the sphere, and Venus is in Pisces and Saturn's in Pisces. This is why they can still be in the same signs, but on still making opposition aspect, kind of, but it's not an opposition, it's called a contraparallel. But anyway, so Venus's contraparallel to Saturn entered on the 26th of April, is exact on the 10th of May, and leaves us on the 19th of May. So Venus's contraparallel to the Moon's North Node is a mix of emotional depth and relationship insights, right? Positively, it gives us an increased capacity for connection with others and empathy in relationships, encourages us to look for experiences that enrich, make us happy, and help us, get more in tune with our emotional world and align with our soul's journey. And, we can just find ourselves more interested in creative plans, spiritual practices like meditation, Tai Chi, yoga, and deep conversations. And this can lead to seriously intense insights about love, values and our life path. But negatively, this can create tension in our relationships, and unresolved issues or imbalances in giving love can come up as well. So think about why you may not want to give or receive love, and what is it about your relationships that cause tension, or how do you cause tension in a relationship. It motivates motivates us to confront illusions or unrealistic expectations that we have about relationships, so we can heal them right. And it just encourages us to self-reflect, especially about our emotional needs and desires, asking us to evaluate, think about how they align with our higher purpose. It's a chance to release attachments that no longer serve us, and it encourages us, to embrace and vibe with a more fluid and open approach to love and connection, especially self-love and forgiveness, acceptance and awareness. So esoterically, it wants us to embody the idea of unconditional love, invites us to dissolve barriers and connect with the collective consciousness. Venus's contra-parallel to Saturn brings that grounding energy, which can be uplifting and challenging. Positively, it helps us stick to and strengthen our commitments and responsibilities and deepen our bonds in relationships. Saturn's influence, encourages us to be more responsible, take personal accountability, and be more mature in our love and life choices in general this week, and just evaluate about what truly matters in our connections. It's an excellent time to rethink our values and how they align with our relationships, and this can make us create more authentic relationships, but it can also bring about feelings of restriction or disappointment to the surface, and we may find it difficult to confront limitations in our relationships that require honest communication and hard truths, and we may struggle with feelings of inadequacy or fear of rejection, which can challenge our self-worth. So it just serves as an opportunity for growth and transformation, asking us to release any fears and patterns that no longer serve us. And it's a chance to embrace the lessons that Saturn is giving us about discipline, compassion, and having a deeper understanding of our love nature, our love needs, and how we can overcome challenging times and build a stronger sense of resilience in our emotional world. So on the 4th of May, Mars makes a semi-square to Jupiter, Mars North Node goes direct, the Moon enters a first quarter moon phase, and Pluto enters retrograde. So Mars' semi-square to Jupiter happens when Jupiter's in Taurus and Mars is in Cancer. Venus is contra-parallel to the Moon's North Node, happens when they're both in Pisces. And this is at today at 3:57 a.m. and I talked about this earlier in the week. Mercury makes a sextile to Jupiter, Mercury's in Pisces and Jupiter's in Taurus. So Mars' sextile to Jupiter brings ambition to the week. We may be motivated to focus on our goals, but it can also make us frustrated as well. So this transit can motivate us to go after our goals, but it also carries the potential for overextending ourselves and taking on more than we can handle. It helps us to and wants us to be productive this week and channel that excess motivation into productive things and not becoming overly aggressive or overly confident in words and actions, and it wants us to find a balance between being assertive and patience, and this is the key to making the most of this, this energy. The Moon's North Node going direct helps us to focus on our life purpose, highest potential, and our authentic self and authentic goals. The first quarter moon wants us to act on the intentions that we set during the new moon phase. Pluto retrograde, although I've done an in-depth analysis of this, is a time for introspection about how we empower or disempower ourselves and others, and it wants us to dig deep into our subconscious mind and rethink where we stand in our personal evolution, transformation, change journey, and it's an opportunity over the next 3 to 4 months to really work on our internal and external growth as we align our actions with our true goals. Sorry guys, I said that Venus is contra-parallel to the Moon's North North Node within the 4th of May, but it's actually on the 5th of May at 3:57 a.m. So yeah, but everything else from that day is correct. So on the 5th of May, the moon void course starts at 5:44, the moon enters Leo at 9:32, and Mercury makes a sextile to Jupiter at 6:22 p.m. So when the moon goes into Leo, we're given an all-access pass to our inner drama queen's emotional world. Our feelings can become larger than life. We can demand more attention and recognition, like a main character's energy that cannot be ignored. We can crave more emotional validation. We can be just more dramatic in our expressions and moments that make us feel like we're awesome and that we can take on anything and anyone. So, positively, it's a chance to showcase our feelings with flair, with authenticity, with uniqueness, and just be more confident and creative. Our heart becomes a stage and we can be a star of our own emotional blockbuster, but negatively, because we can be over dramatic and seek too much external validation, we can be all me, and we can have a tendency to make everything about us, and we just need to watch out for becoming too self-centered or demanding excessive attention. So by balancing our emotional performance with genuine empathy and understanding of others' feelings, we can navigate this energy and seeking internal validation by listening in to your inner voice, doing inner work, shadow work, and building on your self-love and forgiveness and acceptance and awareness and healthy self-care. And the best use of this energy is to perform our emotions through art, dance and storytelling. And remember that true Leo moon magic happens when we shine our light to uplift others, not just ourselves, right? Yeah. So Mercury's sextile to Jupiter brings harmony to the week. It allows us to, really focus on our communication, learning and networking. We can find ourselves more articulate and persuasive. So it's a good idea to share ideas, to sell things, to market things as well, and to work with others on team projects, because the supportive energy of Jupiter can expand our thinking and inspire confidence in our plans, but we just have to remain grounded, as overconfidence can lead to unrealistic expectations. So on the 6th of May, the Sun makes a semi-square to Neptune, Venus makes a sextile to transit Pluto, and Mercury enters Aries. So the Sun semi-square to Neptune happens when the Sun's in Aries and Neptune's in Pisces, and Venus makes a sextile to Pluto, and Venus is in Pisces and Pluto's in Capricorn. So the semi-square to Neptune can stir up feelings of uncertainty, making it challenging to tell the difference between reality and fantasy. And we can find ourselves questioning our beliefs and experience increased sensitivity to our surroundings and people right now. We may overindulge in intoxicating substances, and drugs, and we just have to try and not distract ourselves and focus on what we need to focus on and not overindulge, right? So it's beneficial to spend time on creative plans, healing ourselves, and to channel any nebulous, fearful feelings, self-doubt feelings, escapism feelings into something tangible to make the most of this energy. So think about, what can I build, what can I create, what project do I need to start or restart and finish and stuff like that. That's the best use of this energy. We should acknowledge our dreams and work with our dreams, but keep a firm grip on reality to help us overcome any potential disorientation, because Neptune energy can make us feel vague and too floaty, right? Venus's sextile to Pluto brings an intense but also a balanced energy to our relationships and values. It helps us to develop deep connections this week, which is what this week is sort of about, and working on our emotional bonds with ourselves and others. And it's a great time for meaningful discussions and romantic gestures as well. And it gives us the ability to attract what we desire, whether in love, finances or personal growth as well, and overcome the the challenges that come up this week as well. And if we're willing to build resilience and work with the challenges and think about how can I overcome this rather than, oh, this is going to stop me, we can have rewarding insights and strengthen our ties with ourselves and others. On the 7th of May, Mercury makes a conjunction to Chiron, Mars makes a quintal to Uranus, the moon enters void of course at 5:30 p.m, then the moon enters Virgo at 28 minutes past 8. So Mercury's conjunction to Chiron happens when Mercury's in Aries and Chiron's in Aries, and Mars's quintal to Uranus happens when Mars is in Cancer and Uranus is in Taurus. So Mercury's conjunction to Chiron helps us to have healing through communication and self-expression, and we may find that conversations become more serious and meaningful, allowing us to address old wounds and unresolved issues. So it's a great energy that supports us in having those compassionate, understanding discussions with ourselves and others this week. It's a great energy to use for writing, therapy, personal development work, and any form of chatter and banter that makes it easier for us to have emotional release and healing. And it allows us to be clear about our feelings and articulate them, express them in simple ways that others can understand. Mars's quintal to Uranus allows us to break free from our comfort zone and embrace new ideas and routines with enthusiasm. So great energy to set new sleep, eating and other routines that's going to uplift your life, right? It motivates us to take risks and make brave and fearless decisions. The key to using this energy is to look to new ways, unconventional, non-conformist ways and paths, and experiment with new approaches in your plans. And it can bring excitement and spontaneous as we close down the week and go into the weekend. It wants us to balance impulsiveness with strategic thinking to make sure that our initiatives lead to tangible votes. The things we choose to do actually, come to life, right? So the moon in Virgo helps us do this. It helps us to work on self-improvement and have meticulous feelings of self-management, so our emotions can become like a finely tuned instrument right now, and we can just crave more organization, analysis and practical healing, and we can find ourselves wanting to dissect every feeling with surgical precision, and it can just turn emotional experiences into actionable growth strategies right now. It gives us the ability to heal through our emotions with practical self-care, and emotional intelligence can transform into a superpower of self-optimization and care and love, and we can just literally diagnose and rectify emotional patterns with incredible accuracy right now. So it's a good energy to really work with our emotions. It helps us keep grounded, and create systems that support our inner emotional landscape and work, the shadow work, the inner child work, right? But negatively, it can lead to overthinking, self-criticism, and the risk of becoming too perfectionistic. Remember, the perfection can be in our human flaws, and the best use of this energy is to channel it into constructive self-improvement and compassionate personal development. On the 8th of May, the moon's north node goes retrograde. Mercury makes a semi-sextile to the moon's north node at 7:54 a.m. and Mercury makes a semi-sextile to Uranus at 1:56 p.m. and the moon enters its gibbous moon phase at 2:36 as well. So Mercury's semi-sextile to the moon's north node happens when Mercury's in Aries and the moon's north node is in Pisces. Mercury's semi-sextile to Uranus happens when Mercury's in Aries and Uranus is in Taurus. So the moon's north node going retrograde is an invitation to rethink our goals, especially our emotional and spiritual ones, and it wants us to really self-reflect on our past and how they can make a better future for us by reflecting, and thinking about the habits we need to let go of so that we can learn from them and make a better future, right? Although, it can add to the challenges and feelings of confusion this week, but if we lean into this energy, it can help us realign with our true path. So yeah, and Mercury semi-sextile to the Moon's North Node helps us develop harmonious communication and collaboration, so good for team working, and we can find that our relationships can become more meaningful, and this can lead towards building new partnerships and alliances as well. The semi-sextile between Mercury and Uranus and the gibberish mood encourages us to think outside of the box, makes us more mentally flexible, and helps us and supports us being creative, so good energy to work on creative artistic projects. Use this time to set ideas and increase relationships, as the supportive energies favour innovation and balance in our connections, so good for repairing relationships, this energy of today. Yeah. So on the 9th of May, Mercury makes a semi-sextile to Saturn, and this happens when Mercury is in Aries and Saturn's in Pisces, and it just allows us to focus on being disciplined in our communication as we go into the weekend. It supports us once again to express ourselves clearly, a great energy to use for planning and strategizing and setting realistic goals and outlining your next steps, especially in the areas that may have felt chaotic early in the day or earlier this week. And it just helps us find a more balanced way of living as we balance emotional exploration, working and understanding with our emotions with practical communication. So on the 10th of May, the moon void of course starts at 7:18. The moon enters Libra at 9:13, and Venus makes an exact contraparallel to Saturn, and I talked about this aspect earlier in the week, and it's exact today at 9:38 p.m. So the moon in Libra helps us to be diplomatic, and balance can become our superpower. Our feelings can be more sophisticated, we can negotiate, so good for solving and resolving issues, right, as we seek more harmony and fairness in our relationship, and we can get to elegant emotional resolutions where everybody's needs are met, right? We can crave connection, but with intellectual sophistication that transform relationships into art form, so it's good for repairing things. But with Libra energy, we can forget our own needs and people please, so we must not do that, and it can make us codependent as well. So yeah, respect others, people's boundaries, ensure your boundaries, but make sure you're not overstepping and you're just not saying yes to please the crowd, and we just need to watch out for gossiping and being superficial with this energy as well. So yeah, this week is all about having empathy for ourselves and others, being more disciplined with our feelings, not running from them, having realistic expectations and being motivated to work on our goals, and trying not to be impulsive in our decisions as we take personal accountability for what we do and allowing our lives. So yeah, that's the end of the weekly scopes from the 4th to the 10th of May. I'm Amani, take care and see you next week.